Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Before I start, let me just emphasize that what I'm going to say today is not the official statement of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. I am giving this presentation to help you also, and also for me to relay information and my experience when it comes to flood hazards mitigation. It is good, I think that's the strength when you work in the academe, when you work in the industry, and when you work in the government agency. Yun nga lang po, sa pagtatrabaho sa gobyerno, sabi nga po, I already retired in 2013. And before that, when I retired, I joined, of course, I used to teach at UP. I also used to teach at Ateneo de Manila. And then I was called back to government service. So, gusto ko lang po liniwaginan po, if you have any questions, whatever answers I give is not the official statement of the DNR. So, kung kayo po ay tatamaan, wala pong personalan. Ang sasabihin ko po ay based sa aming research when I was with the Ateneo, sa aming pag-aaral when I'm currently, of course, with the Mines and Geosciences Bureau. So my title, I changed the title, Flooding in Marikina Watershed and Greater Metropolitan Manila, Understanding the Science, Changing our mindset and enhancing resilience. We all know for a fact that the Philippines is always visited typhoons. No question about it. The only problem though is that the average tropical cyclone appears to be decreasing, but the intensity, its strength is actually increasing. If we're gonna look at it from 1947 to 2023, 55 tropical cyclones directly passing through or directly passed through metropolitan Manila from 1947 again to 2023. So the very basic question, which somehow was already answered by the previous presenter, why is Marikina flooding? But if we're gonna look at it, Marikina, there, the setting is that it is bounded by the southern Sierra Madre. No question about it. But more importantly, if we're gonna look at its watershed, it accounts to about 55,000 hectares. And when we talk about Marikina, it is not just one river. So hindi po iisa lang siya. Kung titingnan po natin, there are a lot of tributaries. Napakadami po siya. Di ba po? So in fact, if we're gonna look at Marikina, let me just go to the next, that there are sub-watersheds. Example, ang point na to responsible dito sa mga tributaries. Itong point na to responsible po dito siya. Ito dito po. Ito dito sa portion na to. So marami pong pinanggagalingan ng tubig papunta sa main Marikina River. That's why when you talk about mitigation, you just don't look at main Marikina. You should understand where the water is coming from because Marikina in itself is a sub-watershed of the Pasig River. Within the Marikina sub-watershed, there are a lot of sub-watersheds. And for that reason, when you talk about flooding, in areas that have a lot of tributaries, the more that the main river would be flood-prone. So that is one scientific information that I would like to relay. You just don't mitigate it. You should understand where the sources of water are. Another thing, unfortunately, when you talk about Marikina, it is a basin as explained. But what is very interesting about this when you talk about the geologists is that the basin, low-lying, hindi po siya tipong ganyan lang. It's more biased, it's tilted to the west. Kung napapansin niyo po, if we're gonna look at it, okay, let me just look at this. Hindi niyo po ba napapansin, mula sa Wawa Dam, palabas po, ano po? Yan, palabas po tayo. Hindi siya, kumbaga, if this is the main river, naturally kasi, pag lumabas po sa bundok, it would go down, pababa ka agad siya. But no, if we're gonna look at it, yung ilog, it continues all the way to the west, bago siya bababa. And that tells you that the basin is tilted to the west. So it's not surprising why the western half of the basin is more flood-prone compared to the eastern portion. Okay po? Okay? So that's why, kung ako ay mabibili ng bahay, kung ako lang, hindi naman ako mayaman, Siyempre, if I know the science, I would prioritize the eastern over the western. Kung may lupa pa. But again, remember that the basin is bounded by the West Valley Fault and East Valley Fault, both of which are active. As pointed out by Frivols, it's okay to build near a fault but not on top of a fault. Okay? And also, because of the movement of this fault, the bounding hills, the bounding mountains are landslide prone. Kasi nga, pag gumagalaw po ang fault, ground shaking happens, nagkakabitak-bitak ang bato. Okay? So yun po. And as I have already, just to summarize, the makeup of watersheds influences how often floods happen, how bad they are when they do happen. Watersheds with steep slopes, just like the southern Sierra Madre, tend to promote faster runoff and rapid water flow. So rivers with more tributaries tend to be more prone to flooding. Unfortunately, when you talk about basin, your Marikina Basin, we have the southern Sierra Madre. Siyempre, steep in slope niya. Wala sanang problema, but you have to control the surface runoff. Mas mabilis ang daloy ng tubig kaysa gentle ang slope. So if we are going to focus about Marikina, as pointed out by Mr. Canlas, who was my former student at Mapua, tumatanda. Nagturo po ako sa Mapua, nagturo po ako sa Adamson, kaya balik ulit ako pa isa-isang subject sa Mapua. Pampagana lang po ng utak, I come from a family of teachers. But anyway po, no. So sabi nga niya, it is a floodplain. People always say, ngayon lang nangyari ang baha. Tanong ko po, gaano kahaba ang buhay ninyo? Remember, when you talk about flood, geologic events, it could have happened 1800. It could have happened 1700, just like an earthquake. Whenever an event happens, there's always that event that would leave what we call a geomorphic imprint. Kaya nga kami mga geologists, sabi namin, ay hindi ba kayo binaha dati, pero may ebidensya na binaha po kayo dati base sa klase ng deposito na nakikita namin sa lupa. Kaya ho kami, we are able to map out this so-called landslide or flood susceptibility. So, kailangan po nating intindihin, when you talk about floodplains, these are floodplains, it took hundreds or thousands of years. And in the past, there had already been floods. Hindi nyo lang na-witness kasi ngayon lang po tayo nabuhay. Okay po? Pero ang importante, how to deal with these kind of events. As pointed out before, landslides, floods are natural events. They become hazards because there are people in the wrong place at the wrong time, or just people don't simply know what exactly to do with this kind of events. Kung flood, anong gagawin natin? There are so-called concept, or there is a concept of what we call adaptation, and I'm going to talk about it later on. So, hindi dapat siya kinakatakutan. Of course, siyempre, landslide, ako lalayo talaga ako dyan. Pero flood, there are ways to adapt. Okay? Dikes, that's the thing. If you're gonna look at the Philippines, my impression is always mitigated, like a dike. There is no problem with a dike, okay? For as long as it's actually constructed properly. So if you're gonna look at it, yung itim po na nakikita nyo dyan, doon lang po may dike, but they intend to bring it papunta sa upstream. There is a consequence. Ano po bang consequence? When we put a dike, right, nako-constrict. Example lang ho, ano? Hirap eh. Sabihin natin, ako po ang ilog. Naglagay ako ng dike sa downstream. Siyempre, pag daloy po ng tubig doon, pag tagbaha, hindi siya gaano mabilis mag-flow kasi constricted na siya eh. You did not allow the river to actually spread its load. So in that case, dun sa dike, pag na-constrict siya, doon sa upstream, maiipon ng tubig. Kaya doon siya unang magbabaha. Okay? The way you construct dike should not be like this. It should not be beside the river. Doon pa lang, may problema po tayo. Again, Kung sino mang may inhinyero dito, wala pong personalan. This is based on science. So this is how they do it. Construction of dikes could help, particularly if these are properly sited. There are consequences, though, which I am going to talk about. Number one, when you construct a dike, question is would it really be able to protect you fully? Look at Typhoon Ulysses. Nakikita niyo po. Naku, akala ko dire-diretso yung ano rin. Balak yata. Nakita niyo po yung basura. Nandun sa taas ng, doon oh. If the dike is this low, but if you see the garbage there, you know that the dike would not be able to fully contain the flood. For that reason, when you talk about design, structural design, whatever structures that we are talking about, we need to know the flood height based on historical records, but more importantly, which many people tend to forget, that there should be forecasting based on climate change. Nung history natin, dati siguro ang ganyang baha. But if we're gonna look at it, in the next 50 years, we expect stronger precipitation in northern Luzon. So mas maraming tubig ang babaksak sa northern Luzon. So yung forecasting, future forecasting should be integrated in the design. Otherwise, the design would actually fail. But as I have said, there is a problem with the design because we did not allow the river to spread its load. We had a forum, and I was one of the panelists, okay? A forum organized by Geohazards International about nature-based solution. And in that presentation, it was emphasized that there should be a room for the river program, that the spaces are returned to the rivers to flood rather than attempting it to contain the flood water. We want to move the dikes inland to create wider floodplain kasi nga po floodplain nga po siya. So bigyan natin siya pagkakataong mag-floods para hindi po siya pumunta doon sa ibang area, no? Allowing the river to flow safely. So as you can see from here, this is a dike that commonly we see not just in Marikina but throughout the Philippines, no? So tabing-tabi ka agad ng ilog. But if you're gonna think about it, this is the wrong design there. Move away para ito yung mag-flood and then you put the vegetation. Better yet, you put the vegetation just beside the river, then you put the dike. So a very good example here is that we need to also restore old channels and expand room for rivers during high water by restoring natural floodplains. So how do we restore floodplains? This is Marikina, but this is how we are supposed to do it. Ideally, okay? Ideally. Why? If you're gonna look at this one below here, may ilog po. Dapat po kasi pre-preserve yung natural vegetation around it. Okay? Bakit po? First, natural vegetation allows to filter the pollutants. Kung anumang basura yan, haharangin niya. Number two, it allows to stabilize what we call the bank. Number three, very, very important as well, is that although it allows to flood, yung impact din ng flood waters malelesen. Kasi syempre, hindi lang naman dahan-dahan yan. You know, vegetation can hold or at least ibaba or reduce the energy brought about by this. So, if you're gonna look at this, eto po yung vegetation niya. Kita niyo po. Tapos yung dike, nandun sa likod ng vegetation, yung kulay dilaw. That is the proper way of doing it. So for that reason, it was introduced a while ago that really, we have to seriously consider nature-based solutions. Solutions that are inspired and supported by nature, which are cost-effective, simultaneously providing environmental, social, and economic benefits. Kasi naman tayo, maglagay lang ng dike, tapos na. But remember, hazard mitigation is also an opportunity to enhance socio-economic conditions. Kung makikita nyo kanina, di ba, pwede siya maging tourism. Yung mga puno, pwede siya magkaroon ng ecosystem services. Sa mga coastal areas, pag mangroves, padami dun ang ating mga crabs or whatever, yun ay magiging pangkabuhayan ng mga ordinaryong tao. So it should enhance it. That's why hazards mitigation is an opportunity. It offers benefits to the people and the environment, and conservation and promotion of biodiversity, crucial to that concept. So just to demonstrate, although this is a mangrove, pero ganun din po yung effect niya, no? I cannot play. But, ang point lang ho dito, no? Pag umapaw po siya, yung tubig, yung mga halaman, haharangan niya yung pollutants. Lalo na, you can even put grasses bago pala yung puno. So yung grass, i-filter niya yung mga dumi, yung mga sediments. Yung mga puno, i-hold niya yung bank. Paglabas niya dito, there are already shrubs again. Okay, para pag bumalik ulit yung nag-recede yung tubig, yung mga basura galing sa land, haharangan naman ng grass. Para pagdating sa ilog, malinis-linis na. In fact, there are cases wherein what they planted are yung tinatawag na phytoremediators. Meaning to say, yung mga halaman na kayang humigop ng mga chemicals, mga heavy metals. Okay? Sila ang nagsasak niyan para paglabas sa inyo, pagpunta sa yung flood, malinis-linis na. But if you're gonna look at what is happening in the Philippines, makalagay lang ng dike. Without even considering this, it diminishes generally ang ganda ng environment. Pag pangit ang environment, walang turismo. Walang turismo, bababa ang oportunidad na para kumita ang mamamayan. Okay? So, ito pong pinapakita ko po sa inyo ay mga scenarios na ipinablish ni Ryu et al. Kung how can we put in vegetation, and that vegetation is what we call the riparian buffer zone. So, a question again is, kasi ang lakas po ng precipitation, ang lakas po ng ulan. But look at Typhoon Ondoy. Okay? So Typhoon Ondoy, that's not in July 2024, that is in 2012. Tama po ba? Ay, tama ba? 2009, sorry, yeah, 2009. It's about 330 millimeters, so that's wrong, no? But if you're gonna look at Ulysses, for 400 millimeters, Ulysses was just 234. Typhoon Gaime, which is Typhoon Karina, was just 217, but the magnitude is almost the same. So it is not about simply just about rainfall. There is something happening. Tama. Kasi kung dapat mas mababa ang ulan, hindi dapat ganyan katindi ang baha. So that is why, when I was with Ateneo de Manila, we tried to look into this aspect. What exactly is happening? So, we look at the land use changes through time. Unfortunately, the most available for us is starting at 2015. Developed, when I say development, built up area, the gray one, 9.62% of the total watershed. Agriculture, 2.37. Grassland was 39.1 and forest is 42.67. Pagpasok po ng 2020, you look at the comparison. Biglang tumaas ang development. Panay simento. Okay? O kaya, dumami po ang kabahayan. 16.34. Agriculture, some of the forest maybe was converted to agriculture. So you expect na yung surface runoff bibilis din. At 6.58, okay, ang forest somehow tumaas 65.93. But when we now go to, when we go to 2024, you look at the development, lalo pa siyang tumaas. From 16.34 to 19.13%. Okay? So you can see that their land use changes somehow seem to be responsible for or to explain such kind of variation in precipitation, but the magnitude is almost the same. Now, development. Pag intindihin po natin ang ilog, sabi kanina, easement zone. Tama naman. Pero applicable ba talaga? Mag-measure ako ng 20 meters kung ako'y nasa probinsya, 20 meters. So, ibig sabihin, safe ba ako? O kaya pag urban, 5 meters. Tama. So, if you're gonna look at the floodplain, sa loob po, sa gitna po, o sa loob ng meander o kurba ng ilog, diyan po binabaha. Sa labas naman po, okay, dito nag-e-erode. So dito po sa loob, Magbabaha, dyan magdideposito, sa outer, mag-e-erode. Para po akong nakasakay sa jeep. Pag kumaliwa ang jeep, mapapakanan kayo. Tama po ba? Kaya nga, pag kayo kumaliwa ang jeep, pero kayo ay kumaliwa, may problema kayo. Diba? Against physical laws yan. So, because of the centrifugal force, pag kumaliwa, dapat kakanan kayo. Ganon din po kasi ang ilog. Yung tubig, doon sa outer siya mag-e-erode. So, pag nandun kayo sa outer meanders, o sa outer na bend, huwag kayo masyado malapit kasi unti-unti niyang uukain yan. Pero pag nasa loob naman kayo, kung anong inuka niya, kasama yung tubig, doon po niya idideposito. So, kung ang bahay ninyo na andun sa loob, o mismong tabi doon sa labas, there is now already a potential hazard. So, the flood now becomes a hazard. So, we look at the changes. You look at these changes. 2004 in San Mateo, halos wala pang bahay. 2024, lumapit ang mga tao. 2000, sa May Rodriguez, wala pang bahay. 2024, punong-puno na ng bahay. Tapos magtataka kayo, binabaha kami. Ay, lumapit kasi kayo eh. But I do not judge people. I am just stating a fact that there are consequences sa actions natin or sa actions ng local government or kung actions ng mga agencies concerned. So if we're gonna look at Marikina, the same thing. You can see na yung built up, mas kokonti, but in 2024, dumami. Panay simento. And pagdating din dito, you look at this. Okay? So 2020, dito, no? Halos-halos pareho pa rin, pero pagdating mo rito sa loob, here, ang dami niya is very densely populated already. So the exposure to that kind of flood hazard has actually increased. And the more we go down, the downstream area, the same scenario, na andun tayo sa loob ng meander. So that's the reason why, as explained, when we put up a lot of this, wala na, panay semento and everything, surface runoff increases, as explained by Sir Allen kanina. So you see that, di ba, in-explain nga niya, kapag panay semento na, masyado ng development, mas mabilis tumaas ang baha. Okay na to. Okay. So, mining. So mining has always been an issue, not just in Marikina. When I talk about mining, I'm talking about both illegal and legal mining. If we're gonna look at the Marikina watershed, we plotted the Marikina, the MPSA, those big companies there. And when you talk about these big companies, ang liit-liit po niya, 0.31%. And if we're gonna look at, pwede naman kasi maliit pero malaki ang contribution niya sa siltation. Pwede. That's why we always look into their siltation and environmental protection. Kasi dapat hindi pwedeng mag-operate ang isang minahan kapag tapon lang ng tapon dyan. Big, especially for big companies, no, they have environmental protection to catch all of this silt. But for others, maybe for illegal mining sa other provinces, lalo na kung hindi to mga ayoko kasi magsabi ng small scale eh. No? Yun yung magiging problema if they don't have any environmental problem. For other quarry operations that are given permit by the local government units, nandun siya, it only occupies about 0.45%. So if you are going to compare the different land uses, all in all mining is just less than 1%. So when we talk about science here, we need to identify which really is causing such kind of problem. And it seems really that the rapid development papunta sa taas ng bundok pababa is causing a lot of surface runoff, further enhancing that flood hazard. There are a lot of maps. Project NOAA. We also produced a map here when I was with Ateneo de Manila. And of course, the DNR map. People should understand how to use the map. The way you use map would depend on the scale. Ano pong ibig sabihin? Pag kayo po ay nasa eroplano, hindi nyo makikita ang bubong ng bahay. So the way you interpret doon sa ilalim, kung ano lang nakikita nyo, tama po ba? Pag unti-unting bumababa ang eroplano, unti-unti nyo makikita ang mas detalye pa. Yung mga kabahayan may bubong, ay marami palang bubong. So mag-iiba ang interpretation nyo hanggang mag-land yung eroplano. Ano kung ibig sabihin? Hindi ibig sabihin na high landslide, wala na kang pwedeng tirhan. Of course, ang priority natin, low landslide. Pero kung hindi pa pwede, sa high landslide, pwede ka pang makakita. Okay? Kung pumunta ka sa lugar at mag-assess ka, kasi iba na yung scale. Unlike when 1 is to 10,000 doon, so that's how you interpret it. The Mines and Geosciences Bureau, DNR, right? We produce that. We update our map. But at the same time, hindi naman namin pine-prevent na maggawa ka na gumamit ng ibang mapa. But you need to have you should know the limitation. We're doing probabilistic. Some entities also do probabilistic. But probabilistic is a model. There is no such thing as wrong or right model precisely because it is a model. It is based on limitations. Kaya sa science, pag sabi, mali ang model mo, o kaya sa pag-asa, sabi nyo, mali ang forecast nyo. People, forecast is a prediction. There is no such thing as an accurate prediction precisely because it's based on a model. At the time when they did their forecast, ito yung data na available. Kaso nga lang nung dumaan yung bag nag-iba. And that is the limitation of science. Okay? So in the scientific field, it is very unethical for any entity na magsiraan sa publiko. That is very, very bad. As a responsible scientist, right, we encourage collaboration. You should work all together because the main user here are the ordinary Filipino people. So you would not hear any of those na, I always tell our scientists here, never do that in public, no? You should know, we teach people the limitations of this. Kung probabilistic natin, 100-year flood, the 100-year flood po is with the assumption that through the years, hindi magbabago ang physical condition. So, kung ang base map nila is 2013, it might not necessarily apply sa 2024 kasi baka bumabaw na yung ilog. Pag bumabaw ng ilog, mag-iiba po pag tumapaw na to. Kaya nga, importanteng maintindihan kung ano ang limitasyon ng bawat model. That's why you try to maximize whatever maps are available. Okay po ba? Now, ano namang connection sa Metro Manila? Well, let's talk about the greater Metro Manila. Sa Manila, ang tubig na pumupunta sa Manila Bay ay nanggagaling pa sa Zambales hanggang Nueva Ecija pababa. So, on a local level, greater metropolitan Manila, ang Pasig, ang Marikina, bumabaksak sa Pasig. Ang Pasig, dumadaloy papuntang Manila Bay. Tapos, ang Laguna Lake ay papuntang Manila Bay. Pag high tide, baliktad. Manila Bay, papuntang Laguna. Tapos, pagdating sa iba, portion ng Quezon City, may mga ilog papuntang diretsong Manila. In other words, when you talk about Manila, sila talaga ang end na catchment basin. So, that's why, when you talk about greater Metro Manila, Manila itself, it is a catchment basin. Nagtataka ho ba kayo kung bakit binaba? Catchment nga po. Kaya nga, wala pa ho masyadong kabahayan. Panahon pa ng mga Espanyol. Sa Pasig River, also being a floodplain, it is a flood-prone area. But the story is not as simple as you think, no? Because we have the big problem here in the Philippines because of the climate change. The sea level rise in the Philippines is 3 times, okay? In many areas, it's 3 times faster than the global average. Just like Metro Manila, just like Manila Bay, it's rising so fast. 3 times more than the global average since the 1960s. Now, ang pang-combat natin, pag malis ang sea level rise, is magdala ng maraming sediments papuntang dagat. Kung pataas ang dagat, labanan natin ang lupa. Okay po. Tama po ba? So, kaya nga, ang rivers, nagdadala ng sediments to balance this out. Pero pag binawasan ang buhangin, ang mga bato, papuntang dagat, tayo, magkakaproblema yung communities sa coastal. Again, when we talk about hazards assessment, it's not just about you. It's not about San Mateo. It's also about people doon sa baba. Parang kapitbahay. Nagtaas siya, napakawalang niya mo, dumipat sa akin. Di ba? So, there is that concept, ethics, moral, what we call inclusivity. So, we need to understand all of these things. However, as I have said, there are consequences. Ang solution ninyo is dredging. When you dredge, bawas ang sediments. When you put the dam, which is actually good, no? In your case, because what we want is bawasan yung tubig papuntang Marikina Basin. And one way is to put dam. Number two, maybe you enhance the more of those trees or environment, di ba? Yung para bawasan yung surface runoff. But obviously, when you put dam, naharangan yung sediments. When you dredge, nagtatanggal ka ng sediments. Pag naglagay ka ng dike, just like this, you isolate the river from the floodplain. When you isolate it, kasi sementado na, wala nang erode yung ilog. So, ang baba pumunta na lang doon ay tubig. Kaya ko naman po pinakita ito. No? After the Wawa Dam, maraming bato. Correct po. However, pag naglagay ka ng dam, babawas ang tubig, yung competence or capacity of the river to transport sediments, babawas. Kasi bawas yung tubig eh. So, hihina ang kanyang paghatak or pag-transport ng mga sediments. As I have said, hazards mitigation should be inclusive. Walang problema kung walang magrereklamo. Okay? And we have to be responsible as well. Let's be sensitive din doon sa plight ng iba. So yun yung po ang tinatawag nating cascading effects of the coastal areas. Now, it's not just this Manila Bay, no? Hindi lang siya Marikina pala. If you're gonna look at Cavite, they also put in a lot of those dams there, which is somehow is also very important. In some cases, or in many cases, the rivers are also being tapped for irrigation, which is also important for food. But as I have said, importante siya. But people who might get affected should also be informed so that we can also be able to make the right planning. Planning is not about municipality. It's the whole thing, and it's a whole government approach. Unfortunately for Manila, the sea level is rising, but at the same time, the ground is subsiding. A very good case is Bulacan. It is subsiding, Bulacan and Pampanga. I should know, because my wife is from Kalumpit, Bulacan. Pansin niyo po yung bahay niya. Bata-bata pa siya, kikita niyo yung terrace doon. Ngayon wala na, lubog na. And the ground subsidence is real. Excessive groundwater extraction has been identified as a culprit. Pag masyadong maraming groundwater kayo na-extract, syempre, yung lupa magko-compact. That's why people, when we give permits, we need to know the consequences as well. May negative, but sometimes we have to accept the negative consequences for the good of everyone. Diba? Ang importante lang naman kasi inclusive. Unfortunately nga, para dito sa Pilipinas, sa Metro Manila, kanya-kanya. Ang ginawa nila sa Bulacan, itinaas yung daan, di lalong lumala because yung rivers hindi na makapag-flow papuntang dagat. And what is the effect of the relative sea level rise? You look at this. A lot of that barangays in Bulacan had already, below sea level, permanently inundated. And based on a publication, you can see that Intramuros by 2,100, if the trend continues to rise, yung buong area na yan ng Manila would be permanently inundated. Okay? So, how would it affect Marikina? Kapag pumasok lalo ang sea level, hindi ko makakapag-flow efficiently yung Pasig River. It will not be able to flow as efficiently as it is. Pag mas mabagal ang daloy ng Pasig, mas babagal ang daloy ng Marikina. Pag bumaba ang daloy o mas bumagal ang daloy ng Marikina, you expect that your flood susceptibility would actually increase. So, ano ba? Wala na bang pag-asa? Meron. Sa tingin ko. Kaya nga ako bumalik ng gobyerno eh. Pinagsisisihan ko, Sometimes. Pero ganyan talaga pag ikaw ay nasa publiko. There are innovative ways. Sometimes we need to accept that the area is flood-prone. Alam mo na ang flood-prone, bakit panay simento? So in other countries, what they do, they adapt the design. Number one, you look at the street, parang sa vegan. Ba't naman isa-semento mo ay flood-prone na nga? So, ang gagawin ko, parang mga tiles to allow the water to seep. Okay? Or, flooding should not really result to the stoppage of economic activity. So, I had that opportunity to go to Germany to have that kind of learning. So, they just accepted it. So, what they did, they put in a lot of footbridge connecting one building to the other. Kahit magbaha, patuloy pa rin tayo. Maglakad tayo, patuloy pa rin economic activity. Kasi it should not, that's how we just have to understand what the science is all about. Also, as I have said, mitigation doesn't really have to be ugly. Just like what you see here. Okay? So this is a photo that I took. It's a dike. So you can see that the dike was moved away from the hindi tabing-tabing ilog. But at the same time, it's a hybrid dike. May mga bato-bato, tapos there's that space to put in those grass. It enhanced yung beauty niya. It increased its tourism. Nagtaas ang kanilang what? Yung kanilang income. Because hazards, again, mitigation should be an opportunity for us to also enhance socio-economic activity. In other countries, they try to modify it in such a way that there will be more greens to enhance tourism and also socio-economic activity or social activity or recreation, like the presence of rain gardens that filter surface runoff, enhance biodiversity through a selection of local and native species. It promotes also efficient circulation and porous paving increases permeability of the site. A very good example locally is Iloilo. They thought about science. They integrated science. They also considered that any mitigation that they do should also enhance recreation and socio-economic activity para yung income din na tumaas. So this is a local example. In Singapore, winasak nila yung gray infrastructure because they think ang pangit. So what they did, they made use of nature-based solution. It's a flood-prone, so people should accept that it is flood-prone. Okay? So, what are you going to do now? Anong gagawin natin? Palayasin yung tao? Hindi naman. Hindi ko alam eh. Kasi sabi nga nila, sabi lagi sa akin, relocate. It's very easy for us to say it's relocate. Kasi kung i-relocate yung tao, wala namang livelihood, mamamatay din sila. It's very insensitive to say, dapat wala kayo dyan eh. If we're gonna look, based on my experience, marami sa mga mahihirap sila ang nasa hazards. And that's the reason why the most vulnerable sectors of the society should be really assisted. It's not just about relocation, it's also about livelihood. For those who have that, those that are should I say more fortunate, you can always adapt by one. Taasin yung bahay ninyo. Kung may pera kayo. First floors, maybe parking. Second floor, doon talaga kayo magtatayo. Adapt. Okay? So aside from footbridge, adapt. Yung mga buildings natin, ganun din. Kung nandun talaga kayo sa flood at wala na talaga kayong choice, you adapt. So that is very important ho sa mga design ho natin. And that is what we are actually encouraging. Design the structure by considering as well the physical conditions and climate change. Also, yung dike nila, naglagay po sila ng, ditong mga amphitheater or park. Ito po nakikita nyo sa baba. Just like what you see here. Ang taas ng dike, pero maganda. Kasi nga, ginawa nilang park, kaya ang daming turista. Look at that. Okay? So maganda po. Diba? At alam nila, because of their climate projection, kailangan lang itaas. Kumbaga kung sa atin, nandyan lang, hanggang lang dito, look how tall or how high it is because of their climate change forecast. And another thing, mitigation does not have to be ugly. The role of the arts and creativity can be a key to changing people's mindset on how to deal with geohazards. Maglalagay ka na rin lang, pangit pa. Dinilagay nila, may art pa sa mga tiles pa silang nalalaman. So maganda. And also, if you look at their windows, it's flood-proof, waterproof siya, metal siya, pati tightly siya. So kapag walang baha,
bubuksan lang coffee shop. Pag may bayad, isarado nila temporarily. Okay? So, dinesign nila ng ganun. So, I think as second to the last, just some of the learnings, okay? When we talk about geohazard prevention, there is a need to understand how nature works, the need to maintain a healthy ecosystem that understands the limitations of what the environment can offer. You should know what the limitations are. We can utilize it sustainably for as long as you know the limitations of the environment. It is important that we respect nature because the nature we know is the art of God. Salamat po.